Former staff members who worked closely with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are speaking to sources about what they believe Meghan Markle has planned for the summer of 2025, and the strategy they describe reveals a pattern that should surprise absolutely no one who has watched this couple operate over the past 5 years. According to these insiders, Meghan has been telling Harry for years that he was the most popular member of the British monarchy, massaging his ego with flattery that directly contradicts her own public statements about knowing nothing about him before they met. The same woman who claimed she never Googled Prince Harry, who said she walked into their relationship completely blind to royal protocols and family dynamics, apparently possessed detailed knowledge of his global popularity rankings within the Windsor family hierarchy. This contradiction sits at the heart of understanding how Meghan operates, and former staff members say it explains the audacious plan now taking shape for July. The scheme centers on the Invictus Games Birmingham launch, scheduled to take place in the United Kingdom this summer.
Beyoncé has not formally acknowledged Meghan Markle since Meghan went on her Netflix TV show and read out loud private text messages Beyoncé allegedly sent to her about breaking generational curses.
According to sources who previously worked with the Sussexes, Meghan believes she has identified the perfect moment to orchestrate what she envisions as a rehabilitation of both the monarchy's image and her own standing. With the royal family currently drowning in negative press coverage surrounding the Epstein files, Prince Andrew's ongoing disgrace, and Sarah Ferguson's peripheral involvement in the scandal, Meghan apparently sees an opportunity. Her alleged plan involves timing a surprise reunion between Harry and King Charles at the Invictus event, creating a photo opportunity so powerful that, in her words as reportedly shared with staff, everybody will forget about all the negativity. The cynicism required to view wounded veterans as props for personal image rehabilitation would be staggering if it were not so consistent with past behavior. But before examining why this plan stands virtually no chance of success, understanding how Meghan Markle positioned herself to even attempt such a scheme requires looking back at her calculated ascent through London's social circles years before Harry ever entered the picture. The woman now plotting to save the monarchy from scandal built her entire entry into royal life on a foundation of strategic connections and carefully cultivated relationships with people who could advance her social standing.
Is Meghan really trying to build this bond right now because she wants an invite to the Met Gala, because I believe Beyoncé is on the committee this year?
Oh, interesting.
What makes the July ambush plan so brazen becomes clearer when you examine the claim Meghan let slip during her Oprah interview, a statement she immediately tried to walk back but which researchers and commentators have never forgotten. Meghan told Oprah Winfrey that she and Princess Eugenie had known each other before she had known Harry. She said those exact words on camera, then immediately pivoted to discussing how she and Harry were friends with Eugenie and Jack Brooksbank as a couple, attempting to bury her admission under more comfortable territory. That pivot happened for a reason. Meghan recognized in real time that she had contradicted her own carefully constructed narrative about being an innocent American actress who stumbled into royal life without any prior knowledge or connections. Oprah never followed up, never asked the obvious question about how a supposedly naive California girl came to know the Queen's granddaughter before meeting Harry. The moment passed without scrutiny during the broadcast, but investigators into Meghan's background have spent years connecting the dots she accidentally revealed. Deep research into Meghan's London connections during 2014 and 2015 reveals a systematic effort to penetrate the social circles where British royalty moved. Celebrity hairstylist Ben Skirvin photographed himself with Princess Eugenie at his 40th birthday party in New York during 2014. That same year, photographs emerged of Meghan with the same hairstylist. The overlap was not coincidental. Ben Skirvin worked in fashion and editorial circles with major magazines and celebrities, and his professional network intersected directly with Soho House membership circles where Meghan had been cultivating relationships.
Meghan and Harry are biding their time simply because they know the negativity. Prince Andrew, the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, the negativity around how the royals are handling this debacle. And she believes that if they time it correctly, then this would work in their favor.
Marcus Anderson, the Soho House global membership director who later received credit for introducing Harry and Meghan, had been building a friendship with Markle during this period. His job literally involved connecting high-value individuals within exclusive social networks. Meghan understood that accessing British aristocratic circles required navigating through specific gatekeepers, and she systematically identified and befriended those gatekeepers during her years on Suits. The Toronto-based actress was making frequent trips to London, establishing herself at Soho Farmhouse and other exclusive venues where the fashion, media, and art worlds intersected with old money and royal-adjacent socialites. She was attending gallery openings and charity events where someone might casually mention that the brunette across the room was actually the Queen's granddaughter. The idea that Meghan existed in these circles, befriended Princess Eugenie, and somehow remained ignorant of the British royal family strains credibility past its breaking point. Consider the basic facts of her situation. Meghan was living in Canada, a Commonwealth nation where Queen Elizabeth's face appeared on the currency. She was handling Canadian dollars daily while filming Suits, looking at the Queen's portrait on bills and coins. Yet she expected audiences to believe she had no idea who this woman was, or that her new friend Eugenie was the monarch's granddaughter. The lie requires believing that Meghan possessed less curiosity about current events than the average 10-year-old with internet access. Her Instagram admission years later provided another crack in the facade. Meghan claimed she checked Harry's Instagram before agreeing to meet him, wanting to assess whether he seemed genuine from his social media presence. His Instagram account at the time featured multiple photographs with Queen Elizabeth and other royal family members. The idea that Meghan scrolled through these images without understanding their significance demands a suspension of disbelief that most observers simply cannot summon. But the calculated social climbing that brought Meghan into Eugenie's orbit represents just the foundation of her approach to royal life. Understanding why former staff members now view her July plans with such skepticism requires examining her actual track record once she gained access to the resources and platforms she had spent years pursuing. The marketing genius currently plotting to rehabilitate the British monarchy's image through a single staged photo opportunity has compiled a record of professional failures that would give any competent public relations team pause. Meghan lost her Spotify deal after the company's head of podcasting reportedly described the Sussexes as grifters. The streaming giant had paid approximately $20 million for content that largely failed to materialize, and when her podcast Archetypes finally launched, it featured Meghan talking extensively about herself while barely engaging with her interview subjects. Her Netflix partnership produced a documentary series that attracted initial curiosity but failed to maintain audience engagement. Development deals for scripted content have gone nowhere. The cooking and lifestyle show she filmed remains unreleased months after completion, with Netflix reportedly uncertain how to position a program featuring someone with such polarizing public perception.
Meghan Markle has hit upon a brilliant idea, making sure that she can squash, because of her marketing genius publicity mind, all the negativity of the British monarchy.
Her Instagram relaunch has struggled to generate the engagement numbers that would justify the platform's premium advertising rates, despite aggressive promotion and the inherent curiosity factor surrounding a former working royal. Most tellingly, former staff members have shared Meghan's suggestion that the royal family should charge admission to Trooping the Color. She reportedly believed that creating a premium viewing experience, allowing wealthy tourists to pay for closer access to royal ceremonial events, would generate revenue and increase public interest. The proposal demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes the British monarchy function. Trooping the Color draws crowds precisely because it represents continuity, tradition, and public accessibility. The moment you commercialize that access, you transform a 1,000-year-old institution into a celebrity meet and greet at a shopping mall. This is the strategic mind, now allegedly convinced she can erase months of Epstein-related scandal coverage with a single photograph of Harry hugging his father. The same woman who could not maintain relationships with streaming platforms, who could not execute a simple podcast without alienating her production partners, who could not launch a lifestyle brand without creating inventory problems and pricing controversies, believes she has identified the public relations masterstroke that will reset everything. The pattern that emerges from Meghan's professional history involves consistently overestimating the power of a single moment while underestimating the work required to build something sustainable. She thinks in headlines rather than narrative arcs. She imagines the photograph but not the questions that photograph will generate. And that fundamental limitation explains why former staff members view the July plan as doomed before it begins. The alleged strategy contains fatal flaws that anyone with basic understanding of royal protocols and public relations could identify within minutes of hearing the proposal.
Meghan be kind of trying to shuffle things out the door to close the brand and open it in different ways could definitely be a possibility.
According to sources, Meghan believes that if Harry and King Charles appear together at the Invictus Games Birmingham launch, the image will be so powerful that it will dominate news coverage and displace the ongoing negative stories about the royal family. The first problem is logistical. Why would the king travel to an event specifically to meet with a son who has spent 5 years publicly attacking the institution his father heads? Harry's memoir Spare contained detailed accusations against Charles, William, and Camilla. His Netflix documentary portrayed the royal family as cold, racist, and emotionally unavailable. His wife's Oprah interview accused unnamed family members of expressing concern about Archie's skin color. The idea that Charles would simply appear at an Invictus event for a surprise reunion ignores the reality that any such meeting would require extensive advance negotiation, security coordination, and messaging preparation. The second problem involves public perception. Even if Charles did agree to appear alongside Harry, the press would immediately demand explanations. Journalists would ask what prompted the reconciliation. They would want to know whether Harry has apologized for the statements in his book. They would investigate whether Charles has addressed any of the concerns Harry raised publicly. A single photograph cannot answer these questions, and the absence of answers would dominate coverage of any reunion attempt. Royal correspondents have spent years documenting the breakdown of the relationship between Harry and his family. They possess institutional memory and source networks that would instantly contextualize any surprise meeting. The notion that sophisticated media operations would simply accept a photo opportunity at face value and move on reveals a deep misunderstanding of how modern journalism functions. The third problem cuts even deeper. Meghan and Harry's entire public positioning depends on their status as truth-tellers who left a corrupt institution. They have built their brand on opposition to the monarchy, on claims of mistreatment and escape. A reconciliation photograph does not enhance that narrative, it undermines it. If the family is suddenly worth reuniting with, what does that say about the 5 years of accusations? Either the accusations were exaggerated, or Harry is now embracing people he previously described as complicit in his suffering. Neither interpretation serves the Sussex brand.
Meghan is very, very clever at really massaging the ego in the point of never forget, you were the most popular family member in the British monarchy.
This pattern of not thinking beyond the immediate moment has characterized their professional ventures consistently. They announce projects without completing development. They make promises to partners without building infrastructure to deliver. They imagine outcomes without planning for the complications that inevitably arise. The July plan reportedly follows this exact template. Envision the triumphant photograph. Assume positive coverage follows automatically. Ignore every practical obstacle standing between current reality and desired outcome. Former staff members describe a decision-making process that prioritizes emotional satisfaction over strategic coherence. The question is never whether an action serves long-term goals, but whether it feels good in the moment. And the fantasy of surprising the world with a royal reconciliation apparently feels very good indeed, regardless of its near-zero probability of execution. The alleged venue for this rehabilitation scheme raises its own troubling questions. Invictus Games events celebrate wounded veterans and active service members who have suffered life-changing injuries in service to their countries. The games exist to provide athletic competition and community support for individuals navigating physical and psychological recovery from combat trauma. Turning such an event into a backdrop for Sussex family drama represents a fundamental misunderstanding of what Invictus means to the people it serves. Former staff members and Invictus observers have noted Meghan's history of making these events about herself. She arrives with full hair and makeup, poses extensively for photographers, and generates coverage that centers on her appearance rather than the athletes competing. The polarized photographs and the carefully styled presentations serve her personal brand while drawing attention away from the men and women the games are meant to celebrate. More troubling details have emerged about the support structures surrounding Invictus families. According to sources familiar with the organization, many families who travel to support veterans competing in the games do not receive assistance with hotels and travel costs. They fund their own journeys to watch loved ones compete, often stretching household budgets to be present at meaningful moments in their recovery journeys. Meanwhile, the British government has spent millions of pounds providing security for Harry and Meghan during their various UK appearances. The contrast illuminates priorities that many observers find difficult to reconcile. Families of wounded warriors scrape together travel funds while public resources flow toward protecting two individuals who have made careers out of criticizing the institutions those resources represent. Using an Invictus platform to stage a reconciliation photo opportunity would layer exploitation upon inequity, treating veterans as set dressing for Sussex rehabilitation while families continue bearing their own costs. If Meghan and Harry arrive in the United Kingdom for the Birmingham launch, their presence will inevitably overshadow the veterans the event exists to celebrate. Every journalist covering the games will be asking about family reconciliation, about whether Charles attended, about the state of the Sussex marriage, about the timing and the optics and the implications. The athletes who trained for months to compete in adaptive sports will become supporting characters in someone else's narrative. This has happened before. Coverage of previous Invictus events has devoted large attention to Meghan's outfits, her interactions with Harry, their body language, and public displays of affection. Veterans have sometimes expressed frustration that their achievements receive secondary billing to celebrity couple dynamics. A July appearance designed specifically to generate reconciliation drama would amplify these concerns exponentially. The choice to use wounded veterans as props for image rehabilitation reveals something important about how Meghan and Harry view other people. In their framework, individuals exist primarily in relation to Sussex objectives. Veterans provide a sympathetic backdrop. The king provides a reconciliation partner. Beyoncé's mother provides access to Met Gala invitations. Every relationship serves a purpose, and that purpose consistently involves advancing Sussex interests rather than genuinely supporting others. The practical evidence of Meghan Markle's business acumen continues accumulating in real time through her as-ever lifestyle brand, and the picture emerging from product data and customer response suggests an operation in serious distress. Royal News Network's analysis of the company's inventory and sales patterns paints a portrait of a brand struggling to move product despite aggressive promotion and multiple relaunch attempts. According to tracking data, the As Ever website is moving approximately 200 products daily. That number sounds reasonable until you examine the inventory figures. Analysts estimate the company holds stock that would require 7 years to sell through at current velocity. Some product categories show even worse numbers, with inventory levels representing 8 to 10 years of supply based on average daily movement. For perishable items like honey and fruit spreads, carrying that much stock creates obvious problems around shelf life and freshness. The product bundles appearing on the site tell their own story. Observers have noticed panic bundles emerging, combinations of items that appear designed to move stagnant inventory rather than serve customer needs. One bundle includes 3 different honey products, an amount that raises obvious questions about consumer demand. Another positions slow-moving items as hostess gifts, attempting to reframe products that customers have not purchased for personal use as appropriate gifts for others. Photography quality on the site has declined noticeably. Early product images featured professional lighting, crisp focus, and consistent styling. Recent editions show characteristics of iPhone photography: softer focus, inconsistent lighting, visible depth of field issues that professional equipment would eliminate. The shift suggests either cost-cutting measures or rushed production timelines, neither of which indicates a thriving operation. Most telling is the treatment of the wine product Meghan launched at Christmas. The champagne-style offering received initial promotion but has basically disappeared from marketing materials since. Valentine's Day represented an obvious opportunity to push wine sales, pairing the product with chocolate offerings for romantic gift sets. Instead, the wine sat untouched while Meghan promoted berry spreads and flower sprinkles that customers have repeatedly mocked as unnecessary. The flower sprinkles have become something of a symbol for the brand's disconnect from its target market. Multiple commentators have pointed out that dried flower petals represent a product virtually no one was asking for. They add minimal value to food preparation, create storage complications, and serve no clear purpose that consumers can articulate. Yet As Ever continues pushing them in bundles and promotional materials, suggesting either stubbornness about admitting a failed product concept or desperation to clear inventory regardless of demand. Business analysts comparing As Ever to successful celebrity brand launches note the absence of basic marketing fundamentals. Sydney Sweeney's Siren lingerie brand, for example, launched with clear identity markers, distinct product categories labeled as seductress, romantic, playful, and comfy. Customers understand immediately what the brand offers and how different products serve different needs. As Ever has no comparable identity. The products are things you can buy at any grocery store for less money, with no clear differentiation or value proposition beyond Meghan's name attached. The lack of strategic coherence mirrors the problems in every Sussex venture. There appears to be no team providing honest feedback about product viability. There appears to be no quality control catching obvious issues before they reach customers. There appears to be no marketing framework explaining why anyone should choose As Ever products over established alternatives. The woman planning to rehabilitate the British monarchy through her public relations genius cannot successfully sell jam to her own followers. While allegedly plotting royal reconciliation schemes, Meghan Markle continues pursuing the Hollywood social connections that have largely failed to materialize into genuine relationships. Her appearance at the 15% Pledge Gala honoring Beyoncé's mother, Tina Knowles, fits a pattern that celebrity watchers have tracked for years: aggressive pursuit of proximity to the Carters despite limited evidence of mutual interest. Kinsey Schofield's analysis of the gala appearance raised an interesting possibility. With Beyoncé reportedly serving on the Met Gala committee this year, Meghan's cultivation of Tina Knowles may represent an attempt to secure an invitation to fashion's biggest annual event. The Met Gala represents exactly the kind of high-profile platform Meghan craves, an opportunity for elaborate fashion statements and extensive photography that would dominate entertainment coverage for days. The challenge is that Beyoncé has not publicly acknowledged Meghan since the Netflix documentary Incident. During their series, Meghan read aloud what she described as a private text message from Beyoncé about breaking generational curses. The gesture, intended to demonstrate her celebrity friendships, apparently violated the privacy expectations that someone as carefully managed as Beyoncé maintains around personal communications. Since that broadcast, Meghan has attended 2 Beyoncé concerts, but especially not in the premium sections occupied by Oprah, Tyler Perry, and Gayle King. She had Tina Knowles on her podcast, where she spent most of the episode talking about herself rather than asking her guest meaningful questions. The pattern suggests someone working hard to establish connection with a family that has not reciprocated with visible enthusiasm. The gala dress itself generated large commentary, little of it positive. Multiple observers compared the puffy, ill-fitting garment to a goose-down comforter from a discount store. The train, dragging behind her on a charity event red carpet, struck critics as inappropriately dramatic for the venue. As one commentator noted, "You wear trains to the Met Gala, where outrageous fashion is expected and celebrated. Wearing one to a charity fundraiser suggests either poor judgment or desperate attention-seeking." The contrast with Beyoncé's own approach to publicity highlights Meghan's fundamental problem. Beyoncé has built one of the most successful entertainment careers in modern history by maintaining careful control over her public appearances. She disappears between projects, creating anticipation and demand. She reveals personal information strategically, always in service of larger creative or commercial objectives. Her scarcity makes her presence valuable. Meghan operates on the opposite principle. She appears everywhere, at every event willing to host her, walking every red carpet that will have her. The overexposure has become a defining characteristic of her post-royal life. Harry's ongoing legal battles about media intrusion and privacy concerns ring hollow when his wife spends her weekends posing for photographers at Los Angeles charity events, answering questions on red carpets, and cultivating celebrity connections through aggressive social positioning. The disconnect between Harry's courtroom arguments and Meghan's lifestyle choices creates a credibility problem that even sympathetic observers struggle to ignore. You cannot simultaneously argue that media attention has made your life miserable while your wife actively seeks out every available spotlight. The contradiction does not require sophisticated analysis to identify. It sits in plain view for anyone paying attention. The thread connecting every Sussex venture, from Netflix deals to lifestyle brands to alleged reconciliation schemes, is the consistent requirement that success depends on someone else's platform, someone else's credibility, someone else's tragedy or celebration serving as backdrop for their ambitions. The Netflix deal required the streaming giant's distribution network and promotional infrastructure. The Spotify podcast required the platform's audience and brand credibility. The Invictus Games required wounded veterans and military families to provide emotional weight. The potential Met Gala appearance requires Beyoncé's social capital and Anna Wintour's invitation. The alleged July reconciliation requires King Charles to show up and participate in a scenario designed to benefit the people who have spent years attacking him publicly. Former staff members can articulate this pattern clearly because they witnessed it operating daily. Every scheme requires borrowing someone else's legitimacy because the Sussexes have systematically destroyed their own. They cannot host a successful event without attaching it to established institutions. They cannot generate positive coverage without manufacturing dramatic moments involving more famous or more sympathetic figures. They cannot build sustainable businesses because sustainable businesses require actually delivering value to customers rather than simply trading on name recognition. The alleged plan to use the king's illness, his ongoing cancer treatment, as justification for a reconciliation photo opportunity represents perhaps the most troubling application of this pattern. According to sources, the Sussex calculation involves capitalizing on public sympathy for Charles's health struggles to create a scenario where refusing to participate in a public reunion would make him appear heartless. The manipulation inherent in this approach, using a father's cancer as use for a publicity opportunity, reveals something important about the moral framework operating within the Sussex camp. At what point does ambition become something darker? The question hangs over every Sussex initiative, from the strategic social climbing that brought Meghan into royal circles, to the current schemes reportedly brewing in Montecito. Using Beyoncé's mother to angle for Met Gala invitations operates in one ethical register. Using wounded veterans as reconciliation backdrops operates in another. Using a king's cancer diagnosis as use for image rehabilitation ventures into territory that most observers find genuinely disturbing. The insiders now speaking to sources may represent the beginning of a larger reckoning. Staff members who observed these operations firsthand, who witnessed the gap between public presentation and private reality, who understood the calculations behind every supposedly spontaneous moment, are starting to share what they know. The information flow has begun shifting from Sussex-controlled narratives to accounts from people with direct experience of how decisions actually get made. Plans built on manipulation have expiration dates. Strategies dependent on borrowed credibility eventually exhaust the willingness of credible parties to participate. Schemes requiring other people to sacrifice their interests for Sussex benefit eventually run out of willing participants. The current moment, with staff members talking, business ventures struggling, and celebrity relationships failing to materialize, may represent the beginning of that expiration process. The July plan, if it proceeds as described, will almost certainly fail. The king has no incentive to participate in a scenario designed to benefit people who have caused him enormous personal pain and institutional damage. The public has no appetite for reconciliation theater that avoids the substantive questions their conflict has raised. The veterans at Invictus deserve better than serving as background extras in a family drama none of them signed up to witness. What remains to be seen is whether Meghan and Harry possess the self-awareness to recognize these realities before they attempt another public relations catastrophe, or whether they will proceed with their scheme and provide the world with yet another example of ambition unmoored from strategic competence. The staff members speaking now knew the answer to that question before they started talking. They watched the pattern repeat for years. They understood that warnings would be ignored, that feedback would be rejected, that the gap between self-perception and reality would continue widening until something finally broke. Their decision to speak suggests they believe that breaking point is approaching. The monarchy will survive the Epstein files and the Andrew scandal. It has survived worse. Whether the Sussexes survive their own miscalculations remains an open question, and the people who knew them best apparently have their doubts. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for what comes next.